I'm Bronwyn Morgan with Zio Air, and I am at AUVSI Xponential 2021 here in Atlanta. And it's so exciting to bring our podcast, ZioCast, live to AUVSI. We're talking to industry leaders across geospatial, drones, robotics, space, artificial intelligence, AI-based weather systems, and so much more, including advanced aerial mobility, UTM, government. It doesn't stop. So look forward to you joining us and listening to our leaders talk about what's happening with unmanned systems, drones, and more. We have a very special guest with us today, and that's Michelle Duquette. Michelle is the Portfolio Manager and Outcome Leader for UAS and Space Operations with the MITRE Corporation, and also a Next-Gen Architect for UAS. You can follow MITRE on Twitter at their handle below. So here we go. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on ZioCast Live today.
Well, thanks for having me, Brent.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot to talk with you about. Your background is amazing, and your insight is something that I want to dive into right now. So tell us about your background in government and emerging disruptive aviation technologies. How did you get to where you are at MITRE?
Two very different stories, actually. I came out of the airline industry, so I'm very operationally oriented. And I came into MITRE, which is chock full of engineers and scientists and mathematicians. And I struggled at first, making that transition. Now I am so grateful that I stuck it out. I've had about the last 11 years in unmanned, in the unmanned world. I started out with the originations of the first FAA industry partnership, the Pathfinder program. And we've basically been involved ever since. So the Pathfinder programs, the Partnership for Safety programs, last year's White House drone integration pilot program. Remember the IPP?
Right. Yes, very much so.
And also now we are into the Beyond program. During the course of that time, I also, because UAS touches everything,
it does.
So many things, other federal agencies started to get more involved. And my reach kind of extended from initially being solely focused on helping the FAA better position themselves to integrating DoD needs. And that's kind of where I am right now. I co-chair the Science and Research Panel on behalf of DoD's interests, but yet I still manage a full portfolio of work for the FAA to support UAS integration into the National Airspace System.
Okay.
So I've been at it for a bit.
Yes, you have, and there's so many moving parts to this, and everybody is interested now in testing. And so based on that, with your experience in government applications, there's been an interesting journey here. How do you think this will scale for local and state government compared to federal operations? Do you see that they're coming together, or is everybody kind of running off on their own?
Yes and yes.
Right.
Okay. First, I don't think that technology is going to be the barrier.
Right, absolutely.
So we're seeing right now that there are opportunities for industry to partner with the federal government. We've been watching that with the public-private programs, with NASA, and they're doing great things there. We're also seeing at the state level where they're reaching out on their own and they're trying to find solutions that are tailored to their needs and what they want their future to be. And at the very local level, we're seeing companies come together and help one another. They're combining forces.
Yes.
So the scalability at the state and local level, in my mind, are still two different things. Scalability at a local level is going to look different than scalability at a state level, which again will look different than scalability at the federal level. How they link together, that's our challenge.
That is the challenge. boy. And this idea of collaboration has come up in several of these conversations, and it seems to be the theme right now, and it's critical because there's so much infrastructure that has to be developed for us to be successful, and no one company can do it by themselves, or one entity in any way. So based on that opportunity, what do you think are the biggest challenges to broad proliferation of UAS?
I think it's going to be the ability to synchronize the mindsets. Getting that. Let me characterize it. This is my motto.
Okay.
Innovation is fueled by diversity and inclusion.
Right.
And you can apply that to the federal to state collaborations. If the federal government is not getting a diverse set of inputs and including their constituencies into their policy decision making, there will be gaps. There will be opportunities for the states to scale on their own.
Right.
And the same thing for the state level. There is this challenge between the state and the local levels. It's overwhelming. We all understand that. We need to figure out a way to make that more streamlined, to make the collaboration productive and positive, so that there are elements of that local expertise making its way into the state policy, and that there are elements of those state expertise making their way into the federal policy.
Right. And is that the direction that you see it going, kind of more, local, state?
I see that as the biggest challenge.
Yeah, it is.
It's not going to be the technology.
Right. And then on top of that, public acceptance.
So that is kind of baked in to that local and state collaboration. You know that you're the only one that knows what's going on at your house.
Right.
So as we are working with the local levels, they are going to be the perfect advocate for how their community accepts the new automation. That feeds into the state and up the chain, up to federal.
Right.
So the public perception, the trust, and we're going to hear about it in today's sessions, the ethics that drive both trust and public perception are really influenced at that local level. So I think that's going to be our biggest challenge.
Absolutely. That sounds pretty spot on with what we've been hearing. Now, you're doing work with complex operational mission solutions for UAS and spaceflight. What do users need to know as it relates to new equipment development and operations? And when I say users, but creators, entrepreneurs, and also the end users. What should people be thinking about when it's, because everybody's trying to solve a problem, and sometimes I think the problems don't yet exist. They're kind of putting the cart before the horse, thinking, I think this is what they need. How should people be thinking?
I'm gonna sound like I keep harping on the same thing here. The new technologies, if they continue to push the envelope, continue to keep big thinking happening, they'll be successful. And they also need to partner with others, because your one problem is one of many problems. But if you're solving multiple problems, you have a higher likelihood of catching people's ear. So my recommendation is that these users, these manufacturers, these young, brilliant minds that are out there, that continue to outpace regulation, that they continue to be the people that they are, and bring others in with them. Build a tribe. I can't say that enough. Build a tribe. Bring diverse thoughts, diverse thinking into your circle. Get complementary capabilities, technologies, what have you, and pull them together and create your own ecosystem. We know that the three pillars of this entire educational program that we watched here this week supporting assured autonomy
Right.
were built on policy, ecosystem, and it's the third one now. I've already forgotten it.
Policy, ecosystem.
Somebody help me.
Was it tech? Is it the tech?
Technology.
Yeah.
More coffee. We're going to edit that out.
You're fine.
The three pillars of this
Yeah.
week's educational
Right,
program
right.
have been technology, the ecosystem,
Right.
and policy.
Right.
So if they're building their own ecosystem, they have a much higher likelihood of getting a diverse audience
Absolutely.
whose attention you're catching.
Yeah.
So don't stop what you're doing.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing, and build yourself a tribe.
I couldn't agree more. This is world changing. These technologies, and it's exciting. It's a little scary for a lot of folks, but it will be a massive difference in how we are transporting ourselves and things and doing some of our work. So how will the DoD, the FAA work collaboratively with the private sector for these real-time solutions? How does that happen?
Well, that's a great question, and it's something that's certainly needed, and they're doing it now. So on the FAA side, they have been doing it for years. They've become very adept at creating coalitions, creating partnerships with industry that address focused challenges. So they're not asking for anyone to come in and give them the silver bullet. They're trying to break it down into manageable bites, and then building teams around those manageable bites. So in the public-private partnerships that we've experienced so far, the FAA has done a fantastic job bringing those industry teams in and getting those teams focused on different pieces of the larger problem.
Right.
On the DoD side, they have been doing much of the same, not through those large kinds of teaming projects or
Right.
partnerings, but more individual mission-centric issues that they have. And then they will look across industry and look for partners that can help them with specific elements of those challenges. They've been doing a great job out in North Dakota,
Right.
where they have partnered with the test site there and with some of the industry to help them build the infrastructure that they need to
Right.
meet their mission sets,
Right.
which are different than the federal, the FAA's mission sets, right? So I think that is going to continue. It's become a really effective way of getting to an end state.
Okay.
And it's also enabling the federal government to kind of take advantage of those young minds that are out there that are really thinking way ahead of where we ever thought we could be.
Right.
And they're bringing them in, and they're putting them to work on their missions, and it's working really well.
That's great.
So I see that continuing.
Well, if you could look into the Michelle crystal ball, what would your vision of the future look like, in this kind of new Jetsons world that we'll be in, or galaxy? What does that look like if you had to paint a picture of it?
Well, I definitely see I'm not going to sit in DC traffic anymore.
That's a good thing. Atlanta traffic either.
I'm envisioning that there will in fact be UAS drones within your sight at any point of the day. And it's going to be okay. We all have this human conditioning need. So I envision that as things are more visible and we establish more trust, the public perception will get better. Policy will catch up. We will have found a way to be more agile in our rulemaking, in our certifications, and we'll kind of level out between that pace of industry and pace of government challenge we have today.
Right.
I'll be able to go to work, perhaps in my own autonomous vehicle. There will be spectrum for all, there will not be conflict. We'll have the ability to see visually, to see digitally. We'll be able to share that information without bottlenecks, and it will all be secure. That's my utopia. That with hypersonic fleet aircraft coming,
Right.
with the preponderance of space flight and tourism to the moon,
Right.
kind of thing, and unmanned aircraft growing from small to urban air mobility to much larger cargo flight, we need to have a total ecosystem that is secure. It has to be.
It has to be.
So I'm envisioning that my utopia
Right.
will be where all of those things are happening in unison. There is visibility between the different operations.
Right.
You know, that the airspace stratifications between manned and unmanned, and it's all safe.
Absolutely. I've been thinking about everything from 5G to spectrum to edge computing, cybersecurity. And these are all things that are going to be so important, that supports and is the foundation of what we're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't know yet what we don't know, right? If we're going to unlock some gems in 5G that enable us to do stuff on the edge, that's fantastic. We don't yet know how we're going to use that,
Right.
but I expect we will.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think technology is going to be our barrier.
Absolutely.
I think we are going to be our
I
barrier.
think so. I think you got that right. Well, Michelle, this has been wonderful. Those have been your 6 questions. Thank you so much for joining us on ZeoCast, and we look forward to having you back in the future.
I appreciate it. I look forward to it too. Take care.
Absolutely.